So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining today for our webinar, Save Money and Reduce Pollution, Greening Your Food and Beverage Facility. My name is Cassie Carroll. I'm with the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center, and I serve as a program director. I'm joined here today with the Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability, the BRIGHT program, Donald Bruce.
Good
Welcome.
afternoon.
And I'm also joined by Cesar Moran. He is going to be presenting later today from Sketchbook Brewery.
Hello, everyone.
Thanks for being here today. Again, you will be able to mute and unmute your speaker. So we are going to get rolling in our presentation. But in the meantime, if you have questions or would like to ask us anything, please use the webinar chat or the Q&A function for our webinar today. If you have any technical difficulties, we do have some folks on staff that can help you out. But please sit back, relax, and enjoy the webinar. We are recording today's session, so if you do have any folks you want to share this with after today's session, we will send out the recording of the webinar today after it has concluded. All right. Thank you everybody for being here once again. And I just want to introduce a couple of the organizations that are presenting today. So we have the Illinois Green Business Program and the BRIGHT program, the Businesses Reducing Impact on the Environment program. These are two support programs here in Illinois that can really help your business grow its sustainability efforts and reduce pollution. So the Illinois Green Business Program is a partnership between the Smart Energy Design Assistance Center here at the University of Illinois and the Illinois Green Business Association. And really our program is designed to help you reduce the costs of going green, increase efficiency, connect you to available resources, and recognize you for your efforts. We're excited to be here with the BRIGHT program, Businesses and Reducing Impact on the Environment program. And Donald, do you want to talk a little bit about the BRIGHT program?
Sure. Yeah, the BRIGHT, as Cassie said, stands for Businesses Reducing Impact on the Environment. And it's a program established with federal funding in 2022 through funding for COVID relief, ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act. And the money was sent down to Cook County. I think from ARPA, Cook County got up to upwards of $1 billion and or 100 million, I think. I might have exaggerated that, but 10 million of that went to our Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability. And the BRIGHT program was organized, and it focuses on pollution prevention in 4 priority industries as identified by the Environmental Protection Agency: dry cleaners, auto body and repair shops, metal finishers, and food and beverage manufacturers. And it offers free assessments to these businesses. The only requirement is that they are a small business of under 500 employees and that they are in suburban Cook County for the assessment. It also provides grant opportunities in order to fund any recommendations that come out of the assessment that is done. And that grant funding, I think we'll get to it a little later in the webinar, has some additional requirements to show that the business was affected by the COVID natural disaster and other requirements for funding. Okay. Next slide. Okay, the importance of pollution prevention. Pollution prevention is any practice that reduces, eliminates, or prevents pollution at the source before it is created. So the whole idea is even before we have something going out the stack or down the drain, let's reduce, eliminate, or prevent it. It involves a variety of applications, including energy efficiency, elimination of toxics, reuse of input materials during production, and reduced water consumption. And pollution prevention also reduces both financial costs, things like waste management and cleanup that you no longer have to pay for, and environmental costs, things like permitting, fines, damages, health impacts, etc. What we like to do with pollution prevention is we have the waste management triangle or whatever we call it. And it goes from it's an upside down triangle. And at the top, you have the more preferable way of reducing pollution, and then the less preferable. And the most preferable is pollution prevention through source reduction. Then we have reusing materials, recycling as opposed to disposal. Finally, certainly treatment, which is generally going to be required by a permit and what have you. And then the final, least preferable means of dealing with pollution is disposal or release to the environment. Okay, next slide.
And we're here talking about pollution prevention today because not only is it a great way to reduce environmental impact in your organization and eliminate that disposal cost, but it's also a really important aspect of being a sustainable company or moving your company towards a sustainable mode of operation. So, why go green and why think about pollution prevention? You're saving money really by wasting less because you don't have those disposal fees, because you're thinking about reducing or reusing or other strategies. There's a lot of ways to save money when we talk about going green. Also, sustainability solutions can increase your resource and operational efficiency, as well as reduce your environmental impact in your community. One of the key reasons that I see a lot of businesses actually going green is that differentiation in your regional market. There's a lot of customers right now. Not only are customers that come door to door, either to our breweries or businesses, but also distributors want to see a sort of sustainability statement or find out what the company is doing to be green. So there's a sales opportunity for that differentiation and sustainability, particularly in food and beverage. And you can also attract those customers and employees who care about the community and the environment by being a sustainable company. So beyond just the cost savings, that market recognition and differentiation, as well as connecting with employees that really care about the environment, are another couple of really great benefits of why your food and beverage company should go green. And it's also because consumers care. So this was a study out of Deloitte's 2022 Consumer Products Industry Outlook Survey, and the end consumer is one of the main reasons why companies are going green, as well as board of directors. But you can also see some of our shareholders, investors, and none of the employees are driving it as well. Also, we're seeing that a lot of consumers are actually wanting to cut ties with brands that aren't going green. And a study by Oracle, No Planet B, lists that 70% of people would be willing to cancel their relationship with a brand that doesn't take sustainability or social initiatives seriously. So it's really a lot of customers care, and it's in the media. A lot of people talk about it, and they want to align themselves with their values. And values right now are high around sustainability. So that's another reason why your company should think about incorporating sustainability, as well as employees care. 70% of employees and job seekers say a sustainability program makes a place or a company more appealing. And a lot of executives think that it's a great recruitment tool for top talent. So these are a lot of drivers of why companies are going green right now, but also why you should consider, incorporating sustainability initiatives across your operations. So in the industry right now, we're seeing a lot of, in the pollution prevention world, we're seeing a lot of facilities, food and beveraging manufacturers. Actually, a lot of them are doing just good operating practices, like making sure that they have a shutdown or turn on schedule at the end of or the beginning of each day, or turning off the lights when they're not in use. But a lot of food and beverage manufacturers are also taking process modifications into account. So things like making sure if you have wash water at the end of your bottling or canning process, that's turned off when it's not needed, or there's some sort of controls on those types of things. Also, we're seeing a lot of food and beverage manufacturers focusing on ammonia, nitrate compounds, and nitric acid, which is a lot of fruit and vegetable production. But those are the main sorts of source reduction activities in the industry right now. But a lot of companies are finding with process modifications and good operating practices, finding a lot of value to their companies, not only operational efficiency, but cost reductions and pollution prevention. So today we're going to highlight some of those strategies for you that you can actually implement in your organization. So we're going to talk about four different topics. We're going to start with energy efficiency. We'll talk about toxics and reduction of toxics. We'll talk about diverting and eliminating wastes. And then we'll talk about conserving water. So these are the four topics we're going to talk about today. And then we'll actually hear from Caesar about some of his strategies that he's implemented at Sketchbook Brewing. We'll finally close today's session with some good tips and tricks and funding sources and different programs that can support your efforts that are available. So let's dive in. So energy efficiency. And again, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. But as we finish up today's session, we'll also open the call up for anybody to ask questions live. But energy efficiency, these are some of the top energy efficiency opportunities. There's so many different things that food and beverage manufacturers can do, but these are the top heavy hitters that we wanted to focus on today. Repairing air and steam leaks is a really important way to reduce energy use. Not only to repair those things that are leaking, so you're not wasting that air that has been generated, you're also just using it more efficiently. So repairing those air and steam leaks is primary. You can also look at ways to reduce compressed air usage. So can you lower the pressure of your compressed air or your steam, or can you check those condensate valve settings to actually reduce the amount of time that condensate drain is opening up and expelling pressure. You can also review your steam processes to see if there's anything that either you don't need steam for, or you can use a different type of maybe cleaning mechanism for efficiency. You can also use flash steam. Flash steam is another great way to reduce a centralized steam system that, but also get that effectiveness of steam that you're looking for. So air and steam air and steam production takes a lot of energy. So looking at ways that you can increase the efficiency of your air compression or steam usage, that will save you and reduce energy costs. Also, installing variable frequency drives on pumps and motors where possible is a great way to reduce energy. You don't have to have, some motors don't need to be running 100% all the time. So ways that you can dial those motors back to either 30% or 20% when they're not needed is a great way to reduce energy as well. Refrigeration. Food and beverage manufacturers have refrigeration, and a lot of refrigerators are freezers. So things like installing air curtains, minimizing the time that cooler doors are open, or even if you have a large room that is a refrigerator or freezer, high-speed doors is another really great way to reduce energy use because you're only opening it for a certain period of time and you're not letting that cool air come out, and then the unit isn't having to make up that air that it lost. So those types of things can really save energy over the long run. Things like electrically commutated motors, that's an efficiency mechanism for the condenser of the unit, can reduce energy use. And just making sure that your systems are Energy Star certified is another really great way to reduce energy in refrigeration. LED lighting, we all know LED lighting is important. Make sure that you have LED lighting, but I wanted to highlight if you do have warehouse areas, there are these fixtures or little motion sensors that you can put on the top of warehouse lights that are motion censored or motion activated. So they'll turn on when somebody's in that area of your warehouse and turn off when not needed. That's a really great way. Having that motion sensors on warehouse lighting is a great way to reduce energy use over time. So if you're thinking about switching to LEDs, look at motion sensors as well. These are really efficient and good to use. Couple of other things, when you have ventilation over certain areas, make sure that it's turned off at the end of the day or has controls or mechanisms to reduce the amount of energy or reduce the amount of air that might not need to come out of your facility. If you're ventilating all that air all the time and maybe your machines or equipment aren't in use, you're just pulling conditioned air out of the space that you've paid to condition, and you're just putting it out there back into the environment. So things like demand use or gas detection technology can reduce exhaust fan energy use, and that's part of optimizing your exhaust fans. Demand control ventilation in spaces like office areas. Basically, when somebody's in there and there's a lot of CO2, it'll pump more air conditioning or heating into a space. But when there isn't, it won't use as much. It won't produce as much air. So it's based on demand. How many people are in a space yields how much conditioning will be in the space. Or large fans are a great way to move air, to destratify the air in a space. So, like taking hot air and putting it further down into the warehouse environment or open area. That's a great way to have not only comfort control and better comfort in a space, but also reduce the amount of heating and cooling energy that you need in a space. There's a lot of really great HVAC opportunities, but I would just say start with smart programmable thermostats. Now, you might have programmable thermostats, but smart ones give you that capability to actually schedule for different days or check your scheduling via phone, and you can adjust as need be. But that's a great way to maintain your HVAC. Also, switching to high efficiency boilers or heat pump HVAC units where applicable is another really great way to optimize your heating and cooling in your space. Don't forget to insulate all hot water and cold suction lines, because that's going to really save a lot of energy and make sure that that heat or steam or cold air is going to get to where it needs to be and not have loss across your systems. And then also consider electrification of your equipment where possible. So these are all really great things that you can do. Now, I just want to say, we're going to talk later. There are incentives for all of these things as well from your utility companies. But a couple of things when we talk about energy, just to keep in mind too, consider solar, consider installing renewable energy. A lot of food and beverage manufacturers have a big flat roof with
Hmm.
not a lot of shading. So think about solar as a way to produce electricity. Illinois is really unique in that the incentives are really stellar for renewable energy. So consider that. A lot of heating and cool, or a lot of food and beverage facilities also look at combined heat and power to actually capture the heat off their processes to produce power, or use anaerobic digestion to actually digest food waste and create biogas. Some of those products can even be sold off as well. So another revenue stream from anaerobic digestion is possible. If you're curious about those two things, there are some great technical assistance programs that we can talk about to analyze whether your systems would be really a good fit for combined heat and power or anaerobic digestion. And now I'm going to turn it over to
Okay.
Donald to talk about natural refrigerants.
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, toxics is another area under the umbrella of pollution prevention. And a big part of what we consider toxics to some degree are natural refrigerants. And the reason we consider that is that a lot of the refrigerants that we currently use just in our air conditioning systems, HVAC, refrigeration systems are actually thousands of times higher in what we call the global warming potential than carbon dioxide. And next slide. We know that the carbon dioxide is pretty much what we usually think of when we think of global warming. It's being produced by combustion, coal combustion, and throughout our environment. And carbon dioxide is given a formula for global warming potential because it's the most common uh, contributor to climate change. It's given a potential of 1. And the refrigerants that we're currently using are actually, if you look at the table to the left, are actually anywhere from 1,000, 1,500 to 4,000 times greater than carbon dioxide. So they're maybe not being emitted to the environment quite as much as carbon dioxide, but they have a much, much greater potential and role in producing global warming. And there is some leakage. According to the EPA, approximately 20 to 30% of a refrigerant is leaked over the course of a year in use. So that's quite a bit. And the solution is to look for what we call low global warming refrigerants. And a lot of the requirements for refrigerants are changing now. It's under regulation from the EPA. And starting in 2025, they're going to start phasing out the production and installation and use of refrigerants with a global warming potential greater than 700. Now, the best solution that we think is to use natural refrigerants because of, as I mentioned, their very low global warming potential. Even carbon dioxide, we don't like it, but it's only got a GWP potential of 1. Ammonia is 0. Propane is 2. Now, of course, with ammonia and propane, ammonia, you have the toxicity issue, and propane is somewhat flammable. So you have to be careful. There's safety standards that have to be followed in using those refrigerants. But natural refrigerants have a 0 or near 0 GWP, and it can really future-proof your investment if you're looking at changing out your refrigeration system, your HVAC system, and what have you. With the current refrigerants being phased out, it's a really good idea to at least get the refrigerants that have a lower global warming potential, or even these natural refrigerants. We call them natural because they exist naturally in the environment: CO2, ammonia, and propane. And it doesn't go without challenges. I mentioned some of the concerns with ammonia and propane, but even with carbon dioxide, there's a very high upfront costs. The system for refrigeration systems has to be under a very high pressure. And another challenge is that there's a shortage of workforce training and lack of education in this area. But that's, as we speak, hopefully being solved, some of these challenges. So I guess the lesson out of this is 2025, EPA is going to be phasing out some of the common refrigerants that we currently use. And if you are doing a big change out of one of your systems that uses refrigerants, it's really, you're going to have to get to something under 700. And you're really advised to look at these natural refrigerants. Next slide. Okay, toxic vehicle emissions are another source of toxics. And 27% of the United States greenhouse gas emissions come from transportation. And we got our pictures. I can't see the whole circle there. Maybe I need to move it over a little bit, but you got industries at 24%, and transportation's a whopping 27%. Probably the largest greenhouse gas emission source in our country. Switching a fossil fuel fleet to electric vehicles can not only save money on gas, but it greatly reduces greenhouse gas emissions from burning diesel fuel or gasoline. And it does require, though, installing an electric vehicle charger, generally what we call a level 2 charger or a fast charger in order to charge the vehicles. Level 2, they take about 8 hours to charge. Fast chargers take an hour or less, but they cost a little more and require a little bit of more electric infrastructure to put in the fast charger. Next slide. Okay, toxic reductions. Some other areas that we're probably more familiar with, make sure there's pollution spill kits are in key areas of the facility. Employees are trained on procedures. What happens if we have a caustic cleaner or something spills? We all know accidents happen. It's just a really good process to make sure that a spill kit is located and the employees know where it is and they're trained on using it. Use secondary containment for all hazardous materials or oils that are either being transferred, used, or stored on site, so they don't get into a storm drain or are released. Investigate aqueous ozone technology for sanitation needs. It replaces sometimes acid and chlorine-based solution, and it can reduce chemical purchasing, water consumption, heating, and sanitation labor. One footnote on that, because it is ozone, check with your local health department in case there's any safety issues with the particular technology that you're using. And just in general, reduce toxic chemical use. EPA has a real good website. You can pretty much just Google an EPA safer choice, and it'll bring you to the website where if you have a particular chemical that you're using for cleaning, maybe it's high in phosphorus or something that you don't want going down the drain, it can guide you or recommend you to a more credibly certified, a greener chemical for cleaning. Next slide.
Oops.
Oh, up. Go
It's
ahead.
moving quickly there. And I just wanted to mention if folks also are using chemicals in their cleaning processes or brewing processes, there's a great website that I'm going to put in the chat called TURI. It's the Toxic Use Reduction Institute. And they have a really, really great tool to help you find replacements for different things that you're using. So I'll put that in the chat there with TURI. Um, but
Yeah,
there's some
very
water.
useful. Yeah.
Yes. There's some water efficiency opportunities as well that can reduce pollution, such as using high pressure, low volume nozzles for cleaning equipment. HPLV is the abbreviation that you want to look for, but basically using high pressure and less water. But one of the things that we find to be valuable is conducting a water assessment. So, where do you use water in your processes? How much do you use? Is there a way to reduce that? So, tracking not only where you use water and assessing it, but also tracking your water use per volume of product produced. So, for breweries, water use per barrel of product produced is a really common type of metric that you can use. But you can see here on this example on the right here, you can see kind of where water is going and how much is being used at each step in the process. That's a really great way to identify places where you might be able to reduce water use in your process. Of course, repairing any leaks immediately will reduce water use. And also installing low flow devices. This is a hand washing sink that or troffer that has actual occupancy sensors on each faucet. So instead of a foot pedal, they just turn on when you put your hands underneath the water. Also, shutting off cleaning water on process lines in between batches is another great strategy to reduce water use in your process as well. And then waste, looking at things like using recycled content or recyclable packaging is a really great way to reduce waste. Of course, a lot of folks are looking at ways to reduce plastics as well. So you can reduce that in your process, reduce pollution in our environment. One of those ways that you can identify where waste is coming from and maybe where you can divert it, reuse it, look at ways to work with your suppliers to take those waste items back is to conduct a waste assessment. So just even looking around in your trash, in offices, in production floor areas, and warehouse areas, and even loading docks where you have your trash bins or your compactors. Auditing your bins to see how things are getting sorted and where you can improve sorting or identify different pathways for waste is another really great way to reduce waste. Clearly labeling those bins and providing signage that if you have them on bins in multiple languages based on your workforce is another really great way to ensure that you are going to be able to get those materials sorted properly. Thinking about diverting as much organic waste to composting as possible is really going to help reduce not only greenhouse gas emissions, which is pollution, but also reduce waste going to the landfill. There's a lot of different ways too to think about waste products to create other marketable products where possible. So think about your process. What do you create? Is a waste product that might be able to be either turned into something else or even sent or working with another facility to offload that waste product to make something different. But as much as you can, divert that waste into composting and working with other facilities, brewers, or suppliers to recycle or reuse items is another great strategy. And that's a preview to what Caesar is going to share in just a moment of the things that he's done at his production facility. And then for beverage facilities, there's a great program in the Chicagoland area, but It is available through other parts of the country. The pack techs can actually be recycled and reused. So washed and reused. There's a collection program, but craftfortheclimate.org is the can carrier program in the Chicagoland area. So if you are a brewer and you have can carriers, that's a great program to connect with and start getting those can carrier pack techs back into recycling rather than ending it up in the landfill, because recyclers don't like to recycle those, unfortunately. Um, Another thing, and I'll turn it over to Donald to talk about water and wastewater for breweries specifically.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, water and wastewater is our final thing that we generally look at. I know in the Bright program too, we look at energy, waste, toxics, and then finally water and wastewater. And breweries regularly discharge fairly large amounts of waste beer, wort, yeast, and grains into a wastewater system. And if they're big enough, they can incur expensive permitting fees, and sometimes it can strain public treatment capacity. And this makes just general water use and wastewater discharge important considerations for pollution prevention in breweries. And as I think we mentioned with water, conducting regular water and wastewater audits with your local wastewater treatment facility can help you explore options like heat recovery systems. One that's come up more recently is using alternatives to phosphorus-based cleaning solutions. That's to cut down on the amount of phosphorus going into the receiving waters, particularly the Mississippi and the Gulf of Mexico. Reducing water from clean in place CIP systems and installing water conserving plumbing options. And you can use the water use calculator from your local public utility to give you a rough estimate of your water usage and the savings possible. I guess the Shelland County, Washington Public Utility District has a water use calculator. And I know I've seen them in some municipalities in the Chicago area as well. They have these phone apps now that'll actually give you a real-time picture of how much water you're using. Next slide. Okay. One thing you want to do is if you do have a discharge to a stream is conduct upstream sampling to establish a baseline before treating your water. This could reduce your discharge fees. As I mentioned already, jumping ahead, reduce phosphorus-based cleaners from particularly brewery tanks to reduce future permitting fees that you might get from your local wastewater treatment system. I know the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, Chicago, has mentioned that, and they're starting to look at that more closely. Phosphorus, and make sure all sinks have drainage baskets to catch food waste and compost that food waste in the sink if at all possible. And use UV disinfection systems to treat wastewater rather than chlorination. It's another good wastewater treatment technology.
Great,
That's
thanks,
it
Donald.
for wastewater.
Awesome. Well, I know we've thrown a lot of information your way today already. A lot of really great strategies to reduce pollution. And again, we're recording this and we will provide the slides, but a couple of things to help you get started. And Caesar's going to talk about this in just a moment. One way to get started is to start with low-hanging fruit or wins, things that help really get you started, build success within your organizations, and then you can grow those initiatives over time. You don't have to do all of these things at once. Focusing on those resource intensive operations first will yield those cost saving impacts or pollution reducing impacts. Engaging employees is a really important way in providing not only getting feedback from them on what can be done, but how it can be done can really build your sustainability efforts within your organization and help you implement many initiatives that you seek to implement in your facility. And sharing your story with your customers, either through or employees through videos, social media posts, website, and for breweries in your tap room is a great way to engage all aspects of your organization and all of the different sorts of stakeholders that you work with in your sustainability efforts. So without further ado, I do want to introduce Caesar. He is at Sketchbook Brewing Company. He's the head brewmaster and managing partner. But he has recently gotten recognized as an Illinois Green Business, and I'm going to pull your slides up here in just a moment. But we are very proud of all of the sustainability efforts that he's done. And I'm excited to have him speak a little bit about his work at Sketchbook Brewery and putting all of these different strategies in action. Caesar?
Yes, well, thank you, Cassie and Andrew for the wonderful information so far. I like to say I every time I'm one of these, I learn something new, or multiple new things that I'm like, oh, let's go get that now. But yeah, if you want to advance to the next slide, I'll start with a quick overview of who we are and what we've been doing on the sustainability front. Obviously, we're a brewery that started in Evanston, Illinois in 2014. Then we stood up a larger facility here in Skokie in 2020, and increase our production quite a bit. We've been lucky to work within 2 municipalities that have sustainability and as one of their major goals, if you will, as municipalities. So I've been involved with them from the beginning, to be honest, and then we've had a lot more traction since 2021 because of our larger facility here in Skokie. But it took a little bit of sort of grit to begin with, and then willingness to go after those small bites, like Cassie mentioned before, so they're attainable, and I can show my employees that this works. Let's move on to the next task. So our involvement with the municipalities, and I encourage everyone to do that instead of doing everything on your own. Don't be scared of involving the environmental sustainability or the health department. I know a lot of food industries don't want to, you only want to see them once a year to give you the pass on your on your inspection. But again, I would go over there and talk to them about so what is the city of Evanston doing regarding plastics and regarding film, and was always welcome with open arms, and they helped a lot, including helped us here get connected with the Bright program with Cook County, which then led us to learn about Cassie's organization here, the Illinois Green Business Program, and to get us where we are now. I also understand that when other people in the same industry tell you or us stories, success stories, or hardship, or whatever they went through, we learn a lot more. We don't have to feel like we have to go through the same learning mistakes, if you will, again. So that kind of led us to become more involved in becoming a leader in this area for small breweries like we are. So I'm also part of the Illinois Brewers Guild that represents over 200 breweries in Illinois, and we formed a sustainability committee, which is, in that sense, it's essentially sharing things like Cassie and Andrew are sharing today, and honing it a little bit more towards our industry to kind of share stories and solutions that we can all consume successfully. So sort of fast forward to this past 12 months, if you will. I mean, our participation with the municipalities, Evanston has a Sustain Evanston program, and now with the Cook County Bright has not only done actually done 2 of our main goals, which is obviously sustainability and being nicer to our environment. And second, inevitably, all of us are going to save some money when we're actually being watchful about everything that comes in, is used, goes out in our facilities, right? And just to tell you a couple little things that's not even on my slides, but the Sustain Evanston program has now in the last 12 months allowed us to improve 2 big areas of our daily operations. One including our reducing waste products with a new refrigeration system, and the other one is a better insulated walk-in. And they paid for, I think in the end, it would be about 50% of the entire cost of it. And again, one of those things that I would probably not have heard about it without going and talking to those municipalities. We also are in the sort of in the tail end here of being starting to participate with a grant that we were just awarded by the Bright program that'll help us with our two-phased approach here. And I only said two-phased because we actually had to put it in there, sort of like Cassie mentioned in the last slide. How can I slice and dice all that we want to do as a company to become more sustainable, and nicer to the environment in ways that we can achieve that. So not only the champions behind it, which started out with me, but now I have employees that are also championing this. If we're able to actually meet those expectations or exceed them, then everyone else wants to do more of it, right? If we set ourselves to failure to begin with, then it doesn't look good. So one of the big areas which came out of necessity in some ways, but also is what we produce the most, is basically when we brew, there's spent grains, which is the leftover barley and wheat from the mash. And the necessity part of it is that it creates a lot of landfill, basically, that has to be removed quite fast because of the smell that it produces, depending on where you are. So we had to find a solution for that. It hadn't been easy, but we did. And then our solution was to basically partner with farmers and take those grains, invest on materials and a trailer, and take those grains to farmers. Now that doesn't, not everyone's going to be able to do that, but there are other programs that can help you with, including potentially your municipalities that might help you in partnering you up with a composter to do that. Looking at the other two areas in there is reduce use of plastics and basically removing hard to recycle items from the landfill or your commingled recycled bin, because those are not, they don't like those to be there, like poly bags, those large bags that you have your, whether it's sugar, flour for other industries, or in our case, malt. Reducing the use is one of them. The other one is when we have them here, what do we do with them? So we've been partnering with our suppliers to take them back if they can, and then just showing them how important it is to the whole industry, right? I was also been very humbled to hear, to see the feedback that I've got when I bring this up to our suppliers and I tell them, hey, this is really important to us. Alone, each brewery cannot do this, but you guys have hundreds of customers. So if you have a pickup program, you're bringing your products here. If you pick something up on the way back, then it'll help out. So this particular vendor that we use, Country Malt, they've been doing just that. They actually had a truck that would bring the products here within a 60-mile range, and all we had to do is essentially just pre-sort it and collect it, and then reduced a huge amount of otherwise landfill by pre-sorting these hard to recycle items. And our phase two is, which we started already, is we also have a retail component of our business, and we don't have a kitchen ourselves. We have vendors that come in once a day from Tuesday through Sunday, and it's a little hard, but we started by basically putting composting bins and signage everywhere, and slowly trying to influence our vendors to have more compostable material instead of plastic and styrofoam, and also trying to teach our customer base to actually pre-sort their trash. Don't throw everything in one bin. A lot harder than I thought it was going to be, but we're again, it's one of those things you'll see on my last slide. It takes a village a little bit. It takes everyone's attention on this. Next slide. So how are we doing? We have a lot of goals to meet. I have them in a lot more detail to my staff, but overall, it's like what I mentioned on the last slide. Diverting from landfill. We have, for our production, which is about 5,000 barrels a year of finished beer, we have about, as I mentioned in here, about 80 metric tons of grains that otherwise would have been made to the landfill. That's a lot of bulk. The trash collector doesn't like it. They would have to be here pretty much every day collecting a 4-yard bin. We're able to now, since the beginning here in our facility in Skokie, to use a single 4-yard bin picked up once a week just for the trash from the tap room that we can't, pre-sort. It's really, really just landfill. removing all of the spent grain from that stream. As we saw the upside down pyramid that Andrew mentioned there, reduction is number one, right? If we don't use it, then we don't have trash. So we have a goal to replace all of our cans that have a label on them, which is vinyl that comes in a backing for your label applicator. And that becomes trash or recycling if you can stream it correctly right at the get-go. It also provides like a little more difficulty for those cans to be recycled because they're not just aluminum. Now it's aluminum with a cover of plastic around it or the label around it. And as much as we want to, say, hey, consumer, go ahead and remove this label from your can, we all know that that's not going to happen, especially in larger operations when you might have a catering serving 1,000 of your cans to their patrons. They're not going to remove all labels from that at the end of the event. So we're dealing that with by removing the use of those plastics, number one. And in the last 6 months actually, when I wrote this report, we were able to report that we reduced we basically did not use a label or a shrink wrap on a can on 146,000 cans times the weight of that plastic was about 500 kilograms. It's something that my staff and myself, we wouldn't even see that, right? Because in our operation, we're just filling cans and wrapping them, and then goes to a pallet and goes to a distributor, and then we don't see it anymore. But now we do. We made a concerted effort to reduce that, so we see that. And I must also say that once we started diverting or pre-sorting our hard to recycle plastics, every reel of labels at the very end, we would end up with a reel of backing poly PVC from that label. Each one of those weighed about 10 pounds. And within a week, we would collect a bag of those, about 200 pounds. So one of the things that we'll talk about a little later here too, is when you're baselining, when you're taking measurements, when you're separating things, it was a lot easier for me to see that the impact that we would make by making a change.
Right.
Reusing of some of the materials. So we reuse cardboard trays that you see your cans, our cans being delivered in. A lot of our deliveries are to our own retail shop, which is 20 feet from the production area. Customers will take the cans home. We're left with the cardboard that is perfectly reusable, probably multiple times. We don't mark them, so we don't see how many times. But what I do know is I can count how many trays went out that didn't come out of inventory, and it was a whopping 15% of the total amount. Likewise, the can holders that Cassie mentioned, PackTax is the name of the company and how it's codenamed. It's ubiquitous. Almost every craft and some macro as well, beer or beverage company uses that product. And it is made of 100% recycled plastic, as they mentioned, but it is still plastic that it is not easy to recycle. So what we do is we have partnered with our customers, our shops, our own, and beer shops and restaurants that serve our beer and others, and we will take those can handles from them. We wash them and reuse them. Those that are broken or otherwise are deemed unusable, we collect it and then we send it to a bigger facility that will make sure that goes back to the company, PackTax, to then turn them into PackTax again, possibly indefinitely, as they mentioned. Now, this is all great for sustainability, but also look at how many of those particular handles we saved. 15,000 times easily 15 to 20 cents a piece. That'll save us about $5,000 a year, which is really easy for me to tell everyone, look, this is a good savings that can go back into the company, right? We can offer those as benefits to our employees. We can offer those. We can do a lot more by not spending that money. We have also signed up for community solar in both of our locations. One is up and operational in Evanston. The one here in Skokie, which is a 15,000 square foot warehouse, is coming live around September, I hear. And that was one thing that I learned also through the Illinois Green Business Program, because I was really focusing on getting solar panels, which would have been great. But we don't own the building, and that was kind of quickly showing to be like a something that became a little too big. Going back to taking bite sizes of things that can be achievable. I really want my solar panel on the roof, but as soon as I noticed that that was going to be a much larger project that could potentially go nowhere because of our relationship with the roof, I call it, and the owner of the building, I switched over to community solar. And at some point, if we do end up buying the building or something's changed, we can still have our panels up there. Water measurement. Again, I mentioned baselining. I would say don't just stop at water. I mean, we do water once a month. A lot of us are in shared meters. That doesn't prevent anybody from actually measuring how much you consume. You can purchase anywhere from $300 to $1,000 meter that just clamps onto your service pipe, and you can, it would require a little bit of work. You set a timer on your calendar, and then you go measure your water meter once at the first of the month, or at the end of the day on the 30th or 31st. I keep a spreadsheet of that. What it does tremendously for us, it actually shows me if there's a variance or a deviation from what I expect. So we have some good data from other breweries and what is expected to be used for every barrel of beer produced. And by baselining, we were able to see what we do, and then we can go up and down from that. But if there is a month that we use twice as much, then we know that there's something wrong, whether it's as simple as a toilet leaking, right? Which is if it's happening 24/7 every day of the week, then it's probably going to contribute to that. It also helped us to talk to our landlord about how much water we actually use. Water is a product for us, so it's very important from the get-go. It's an ingredient, so it's got to be, it's got to be important from the beginning. And it's also something that we there's a lot of waste of if we're not careful. And if there's any other people here with breweries or that will end up seeing this presentation, if you're on a shared bill with others in the building, you probably heard your landlord saying, well, but you're a brewery, you use most of the water. While that may be very well true, it's only really true once you look at hard numbers. So it's really great for me, for example, to have the numbers so I can go back and say, look, every month, this is how much we use, right? And so if there is a huge disparity there, then it's somewhere else. Let's go look at that. Next slide. Yeah, and then in one of the hard ones, which is food vendors. I'm realizing more and more now. But again, it just starts with a conversation, right? We have a list of probably about 30 food vendors. We like to rotate them. It's great for our customers. It keeps us from having to install a kitchen at this point. But it is a relationship that I like to tell all of my employees that we have to treat them as if they were our own kitchen, because essentially to our customers, that's exactly who they are. So we not only take really good care of choosing our suppliers, but also our food vendors. And we have created recently we've created a sort of like a playbook for food vendors. We're not requiring them to do exactly everything, but we're encouraging them to, not use styrofoam, not use plastic wrap. If they can, just use reusable, things if they can. Don't give out individually packaged utensils. If the brewery, like we do, we have utensils we can wash. Again, it's not a light switch by any means, but it's it's a relationship that the same way that we have that relationship with our customers and our vendors, this sustainable part of it is just added on to that relationship. We asked our food vendors to not use their generators. It's very typical for them to just come in and pull the generator and start using generators. So we installed a 30 amp outlet outside, and we meet and greet every time they come in, and we're like, is everything good? Did you get hooked up on the electrical? It saved them money and also saves the pollution. And it saves all that smell from traveling to your facility when they're really close. Next slide. And I think the next slide, I talked a lot about this already, like how we found out here by pre-sorting a lot of these hard to recycle items, how much of that was going to the landfill. Also, like, a lot of this is bulk, right? I mean, if you get a pallet of whatever at your facility, depending on where that pallet was wrapped, there might be like 20 turns of plastic film in there. You crumble all that up, it becomes like a huge bulk that we all end up having to put on the trash bin because the recycling doesn't like that. So trying to work with your village, your municipality, to see if they have a program. Evanston did. They kind of went away a little bit from it now. We're trying to get back. But that was in the, before we had a relationship with our vendor for malt, that they said, no, we're taking them back now. So we do all of that. And this is why I mentioned the Country Malt Group, CMG. They established a program called the bag log, where we just basically shove more plastic inside of a plastic bag that they'll take back. And they have a trailer in their warehouse that they keep adding that. And then once it reaches a full trailer load, a recycler comes in to get it. What's really interesting about this too is they care because their customers, us, are asking. If we never asked that question to them, they wouldn't care. Potentially, right? They might care for the environment, but it is an added cost that doesn't translate directly to a sale of malt to us. But the more we talk to our regional manager on their side and show to them how important that is to us, that we're actually looking at what each of our vendors are doing, what is their plan for, what is their environmental sustainability plan, whether in the future or already happening. We're starting to be able to choose our vendors based on that. The information is out there. They are carrying a lot more because of graphs that you've seen Cassie and Andrew show how much our consumers care. We've had consumers come over and say, I come here because you do that. Right. And that's music to my ears. That's great. Next slide. So I guess in closing on my part here, it's a team effort. I feel like we, it's great inside to lead by example. So I walk around the warehouse. If I see a piece of plastic somewhere, I pick it up and I put it in the right place. Hopefully, showing to others that that's what they should do. And in the community, by being a business that is leading by example, and encourage them to do the same, including our vendors, and our consumers that are here on an everyday basis. I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Cesar, for your presentation. It's so inspiring to hear. I learn something from you every time.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, thanks, Cesar. That was really good. Yeah. Just shows how interconnected everything is too, with the employees, the customers, the vendors, suppliers, and spreading the word in education.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Thank you. And I just want to open it up to the audience. I know we're right at 2:00 here, but I want to open it up to folks. Do you have any questions for us or for Cesar before we kind of close out today's session? Please feel free to unmute if you have questions. You have that ability to do so. You don't have to type it in the chat, but I just wanted to see if anybody has any questions or any specific questions about your facility. We're happy to answer things that you're dealing with at your facilities too, and try to help you with solutions. No questions? All right. Well, I'll close this out here today. I do want to share a few more things before we close out. There's a lot of different support and funding out there. First, I'll let Donald talk a little bit about the Cook County Bright program.
Yeah,
as
sure.
a resource.
We've seen through the presentation today, and you've probably seen, where pollution prevention can actually save you money. You have a return on the investment. And but we do realize that some of these things require initial capital cost. So we have a Bright program. We talked a little bit about the assessments. Any business in suburban Cook County is eligible for a free Bright assessment. 3-4 of our engineers would come out to your facility, sometimes accompanied by ComEd and Nicor, the utilities, spend about an hour or two and basically look at the equipment, your processes and what have you. And from that, a couple months later, we'll give you a report with potential recommendations. So if you're a dry cleaning facility, auto body repair shop, metal finisher, or food and beverage manufacturer in Cook County, suburban Cook County, just send us an interest survey. And we've got the link there at the lower right of this slide where you can express interest in our program. Now, for the grant, we talked about the capital cost about doing some of these things. It can be significant. So there is grant funding of the 10 million that we got from the ARPA, federal money from the Department of Treasury. About 4 million of that goes into our assessments and administrative costs and things of that nature. So we have about 6 million left over for Bright grants. And the requirements for that are, first of all, you have to have a Bright assessment done. You must have no more than 500 full-time employees. You must have been in operation prior to January 1, 2020, before the COVID pandemic. And you must have experienced some type of negative economic impact due to COVID-19 pandemic. And that can be just demonstrated by proof of revenue loss and other demonstrations. And you'll be required to attend 3 sustainability trainings. So this actually counts. I think Caesar's on the line and Dominic Latisa from Laborio Bakery. This will count for your industry-specific pollution prevention training. And then we've combined, for the most part, the general grant administration and general sustainability training in another 1-hour session. And the grants, then you apply for the grant on the Cook County website as well. There's a link within there to apply for the grant. And you can receive up to $300,000 for the recommendations that are identified in the Bright Assessment Report. The top pollution prevention project can receive up to $100,000 to cover the project. Generally, the projects will be cost shared 50-50, the other projects. And if it's a fossil fuel-based recommendation, there's up to a 25% cost share provided by the Bright Grant. Okay, I think there's one other slide on that, Cassie, or that's it?
Yeah, there's one other one. I just wanted to clarify the 100% coverage. It's not $100,000. It's up to $300,000. It can get 100%
Right.
coverage.
Oh, did I say $100,000?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's 100%. Yeah, 100% of whatever the cost of that is. And it could be up to $300,000 in some cases.
Thank you.
Okay, there's some other revenue sources. One is the Cook County Bureau of Economic Development has a property assessed clean energy program, a commercial property assessed clean energy program. And it's a tool that provides low cost, long-term financing for energy efficiency, renewable energy, water conservation, and resiliency in commercial buildings. So our businesses, food and beverage, pretty much fall into that category. You got a commercial building, and you can get a loan through this CPACE program potentially. They can obtain up to 100% financing from private capital providers for qualified upgrades, such as HVAC, lighting, solar, a lot of the stuff that we talked about. For existing buildings and new construction projects. If you're not located in Cook County, the state of Illinois has a statewide program, and you can visit illinoisfa.com to see if your county, local municipality has a CPACE program. One thing I will say though, it's the program is dealing with larger, higher value properties in general. And the loans are usually for a capital amount of about 25% of the property assessed value, starting at about $4 million. So that might rule out some of our smaller businesses. They're looking at capital providers that, unfortunately, till now aren't really interested under $1 million for the loan. So just something to consider, though, if you've got a big project and you have your property is worth quite a bit. Next slide for other funding opportunities. Other technical assistance and financial assistance programs. MWRD, we're all familiar with them, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, pretty much serves the Chicagoland area. And you can schedule assessments with them to have their staff come out and evaluate your water use. We are actually starting to invite them when they're available on our Bright assessments as well. Someone from MWRD might come out. UIC, I mentioned suburban Cook County for Bright because we're Cook County government and we handle suburban Cook County. But UIC is involved with the city of Chicago for Chicago-based businesses, and they offer a similar program to Bright, but it excludes the internal funding opportunities. But the next one there is a federal program, both technical assistance and funding from the U.S. Department of Energy, their Industrial Assessment Center. And they actually have a center at UIC. And they also have, through that center, similar to Bright, you can have a federal assessment done, and the requirements for the assessment are pretty similar. You're in the United States, you don't have to be in suburban Cook County. You can be in Chicago. You can be in suburban Cook County. You have to have less than 500 employees. It's for what they call small and medium manufacturing facilities. And they can be NAAQS codes, food and beverage falls into their purview for manufacturing. And you must have energy bills over $100,000 a year. And by energy bill, that's your electric, gas, and it could also include your fuel bills if you use vehicles, delivery trucks, and what have you. So they're kind of interested. That's a little bit of a different requirement for their program. They're interested in people that have a pretty high energy bills of over $100,000 a year. And that's a potential source of funding with a little bit larger food and beverage manufacturers. Again, similar to Bright, I believe their grant program provides up to $300,000. It's all cost shared on a 50-50 cost share basis. And I will say, even if you did receive Bright grant money, as long as you're not doubling up on the same project, you could actually seek funds from this program as well. But you'd have to have one of their assessments done as well. And then we have the EPA Energy Star Industrial Assistance Program. EPA's launched the Great Lakes Industrial Assistance Network to support businesses find more ways to reduce energy usage through trainings and networking opportunities with similar businesses, such as food and beverage. And the Illinois Sustainable Technology Center, I believe that's through U of I Champaign. Cassie, you probably know better than me. And that offers assessments for manufacturing facilities across the state of Illinois. Can't see the bottom of the slide for some reason.
That's it.
That's it? Okay. Any questions on any of that? Because, it's pretty important.
There's a lot of really important and good support out there.
Yeah, take a look at the DOE Industrial Assessment Center. That could or could not be a source for more technical expertise and funding.
Mm-hmm.
And Energy Star is really good. Caesar mentioned all the good things they're doing at his brewery. And one thing I will say in our Bright program, I mentioned that the trainings, you've got that part done, well, part of it. And there's still the grant and general sustainability training. There's a beneficiary agreement that's part of the grant process. And part of that agreement is we'll want to look at those metrics and track them throughout the course of these projects as they are implemented. So it's good that was brought up. Sounds like it's already been done in some cases.
Yeah.
Good. Next slide.
Oops. Great. Well, I did want to talk about, there's a lot of resources all across Illinois, and federally, the Illinois Green Business Program is also a resource to help you identify opportunities. We provide, not only there's a baseline program to find those high impact items for your company, but also certification, getting recognized as an Illinois green business. But it's easy to participate. There's 3 key steps: assessing opportunities, then we help you take action, and then we help you get recognized for those actions. So if you're interested in taking the next step from some of those assessment programs and getting kind of a holistic certification for your business, the Illinois Green Business Program is a great place to go next. There is also a whole host of utility rebates and assistance programs as well. So any of the energy efficiency related things that we talked about today, please contact your local utility. So we like to say if it's anything that touches energy use, there is an incentive for it. So please explore it. And Donald or I are happy to help you explore those opportunities as you
Absolutely.
for your
Any
organization.
questions? And the ComEd and NICOR people are pretty good too, and we can always give us a call and we get them on the line. They're very helpful as well. You know, Cassie, I just realized I don't know if there's another slide, but there's also state and federal tax credits. We can mention that in general for solar and even some of the other stuff, electric vehicles, and let's keep that in mind as well.
There are. We don't have a
Okay.
specific slide on that, but there are some really great tax credits too.
Yes.
So again, if you have any questions about how to piece it all together, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, just give us a call. Any questions?
And if you're looking at forklifts, ComEd and Ameren both have incentives for battery chargers for forklifts. So going electric rather than having propane forklifts. There are lots of electric vehicle incentives out there. ComEd specifically has electric vehicle incentives. So for a light duty vehicle, you can get an extra $5,000 to $7,500 back on an incentive. That would not compete with your tax credits that you would get as well. So it would be in addition to those tax credits that are available. The federal clean vehicle tax credit or the EV charging incentive there as well. So there's for EV charging, there's the federal tax credit. There's the Illinois EPA charging incentive program if you're going to do a level 2 charger or above. And then ComEd customers can get also another charging incentive. Ameren, Illinois actually provides rate plans to reduce charging costs. So every utility is doing it a little bit differently, but the investor-owned utilities here in Illinois also offer for EVs and EV charging tax credits or incentives on top of the federal and state incentives that are available. And then finally, just wanted to highlight that solar is, as I mentioned, is really viable. There is the 30% federal tax credit that is available. You can get 30 to 40% from off the project from the Illinois Solar Renewable Energy Credit, the SREC, which is really something here that all businesses can take advantage of. And then there's the maker's depreciation tax credit, which can add another 5 to 10% off of your total project costs. So it is really advantageous for businesses to stack those credits to make solar viable for your facility. And most of those pay back within 12 to 18 months, which is really great too. There's some awesome utility resources available from ComEd. You can check how much your property would generate. You can also look at community solar for your property as well. And then check the Ameren, Illinois website if you're in the southern or central and southern Illinois for their assistance. They have similar tools to ComEd as well. But all in all, there's so many different options, so many different things you can piece funding together with. Energy service performance contracting is another way to get this work done, where you're actually you work with a company to finance all of the projects, energy efficiency work or water savings, solar, etc. And then you pay it back over time based on the savings that you'll generate. So it's another way you don't have to pay upfront for some of these energy efficiency or renewable energy projects, but you can pay it off over time based on the savings that you'll receive. So again, we have provided a ton of information for you today, probably much more than you anticipated. Hopefully you've learned something today, but if you have any questions, we are here to help. So please reach out to Donald or myself, or even Caesar if you'd like more information on some of the work that he's done. But please feel free to follow up with us. We're here to help and happy to help you find profitable, sustainable, pollution reducing solutions for your company. So thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And one last call for questions. All
No
right,
questions.
I don't
Okay.
see any in the chat. All right.
Well, if
Well,
they come up later, just give us a call, like Cassie said.
thank
We
you
are
so
available.
much, Donald, for presenting on behalf of the Cook County Department of Environment and Sustainability. Thank you, Caesar, for sharing your story from Sketchbook Brewing. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care, everybody.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.